Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and today I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Blue Moon Shawl, which is a free pattern you'll find on both yarnspirations.com and on mooglyblog.com as the Fall Crochet Along for 2021. To make this pattern, you'll need 2 Caron Big Donut Ogos. I used the Blue Moon colorway, which inspired the name. You'll also need a US K-hook, which is a 6.5 millimeter one. And of course, you'll need your usual crochet supplies, a yarn needle, stitch markers, and scissors. In this section, I will be demonstrating how to crochet section 2, shown here in the lighter yellow colorway. So as you'll recall, at the end of row 16, we did not turn. So for row 17, which is our first row for section 2, we're going to join to the very first stitch that we made in row 16, which is that top of that marked chain 3 there. That was our first double crochet. So we're going to go ahead and join our yarn with a slip stitch to that very first stitch. Then we're going to begin our row with a chain 1 and a single crochet in the first stitch. Let's go ahead and move that stitch marker up to the single crochet, since this is now our first stitch for the row. And then we follow that with 2 single crochets in the next chain 2 space. So that's our first chain 2 space right there. 1 and 2. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet in each double crochet and 3 single crochets in each chain 3 space all the way until we get to that marked stitch in the middle. So that is a single crochet in each stitch and 3 single crochets in each chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. Now we've come to a double crochet, so we put a single crochet in it. There's another double crochet, so we single crochet in that. And there's a chain 3, so we do 3 single crochets in that. So continue that all the way across until we get to that marked center stitch. So now we've worked all the way to that center marked stitch. Once we're there, we're going to put a single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2. Then we place the stitch marker around that chain 2 space. And finally, 1 more single crochet back in that marked stitch, or what was the marked stitch from the previous row. Then it's the same thing right back on up the side. We work 3 single crochets in each chain 3 space, 1 single crochet in each double crochet, all the way till we get to that last chain 2 space at the end. So I'll see you there. So here we are right at the end of row 17. We've got that final chain 2 space left. So now we just work 2 single crochets in that final chain 2 space, and then a single crochet in the top of that very last stitch of the previous row. So at the end of row 17, you should have a total of 126 single crochets. So for row 18, we've turned, and then we start with a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and this will count as our first double crochet. So I'll just put my stitch marker right in the top of that third chain. Then we double crochet in that very first stitch, and then double crochet in the next stitch. There we are. Then we begin our repeat that we'll do 12 times. Chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2 single crochets, 1, 2, so that's the next one right there, and double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So skip 2 and double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. There we are. Now we need to repeat that again. Chain 2, skip 2 single crochets, 1, 2, double crochet in each of the next 3. And that's our repeat that we'll do a total of 12 times until we get all the way about down to that center of the shawl again, that center marked stitch. So just continue that repeat all the way to the center, and I'll see you when we're ready for the center of row 18. So that brings us to the stitch right before the marked chain 2 space. So what we do here is we go ahead and chain 2 again. We skip the 1 single crochet right there, and then into that marked chain 2 space, we work a double crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, place marker. So we'll move that stitch marker right on up around that chain 2. And double crochet in that marked chain space again, or the previously marked chain space. There we are. And now we can continue down the other side. We chain 2, 1, 2, skip that next single crochet, double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, then chain 2 and skip 2. That same repeat all the way across until we get just about to the end of row 18. So I'll pick back up there. Okay, so here we are, right about at the end of row 18. We've got 3 double crochets, chain 2, and skip 2, and that's led us to the stitch right before the last stitch. So in the stitch right before the last stitch, we put 1 double crochet. And in the very last stitch, we put 2 double crochets to mimic what we did back at the beginning of the row. So right there is the end of row 18. And at the end of row 18, you should have a total of 80 double crochets. Okay, so for row 19, we start with a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This means it will count as a double crochet and a chain 1, or chain 1 space, depending on what the pattern calls for. So we mark the top of our 3rd chain there for our double crochet, and then we work 1 double crochet back in that very first stitch. Then we skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, which brings us to this chain 2 space. We're going to work double crochet and chain 1 3 times, and then 1 more double crochet in this chain 2 space. So what does that mean? 4 double crochets with a chain 1 in between each of them. So we've got our first one and a chain 1, put in our second double crochet and a chain 1, put in our 3rd double crochet and a chain 1, and now a 4th double crochet. Just like so. Then we skip 3 double crochets and do it again in that next chain 2 space. So let's do that together one more time. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. There we have it. So that is our repeat all the way until we get to that marked chain 2 space. So I'll see you as we get closer to the center of row 19. So after doing that set of 4 double crochets with chains in between 12 times, you should come to the chain 2 space right before the marked stitch. So in this chain 2 space, we want to go ahead and work a double crochet and chain 1 twice. I get a better grip on my hook here. So double crochet and chain 1 and double crochet and chain 1. Then in the marked stitch, or the marked chain 2 space, we are going to work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, place marker, there we go, chain 1, double crochet, and chain 1. So all that was worked into that center marked space there. Then we're going to double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the next chain 2 space. So that one right there. So double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Then it's back to the repeat that we had before. Skip the next 3 stitches, or the next 3 double crochets, and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet 12 times. Whoops. There we go. So continue that on across just as we've been doing before, and I will see you when we get to the end of row 19. So now we're at the end of row 19 with just 3 stitches left that we could work into, but we're going to skip the first 2, and in that very last stitch, we're going to work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So that will be the top of that marked chain 3 there, or the marked 3rd chain, I should say. Looks like the stitch marker wants to be in the way for this one, so I'll go ahead and take that out. And we'll work our, oops, and then I dropped my yarn over. Let's try that again. There we go. Double crochet and chain 1 and double crochet right in that very last stitch. There we go. So now at the end of the 19th row, you should have a total of 107 double crochets. So now we're ready to begin row 20. We start with a chain 1 and 2 single crochets in the very first stitch. So after I make the first one, I will go ahead and put my stitch marker right in there. So there's our first one. And there is our second. Then we're going to single crochet in that next chain 1 space. And then chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we start the section that begins with the asterisk, so this will begin our repeat. We single crochet in the next chain 1 space, which is, of course, right there. Remember, in each of these sections, we have a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So we jump over to this chain 1 space right here, and we single crochet there, and then we chain 3. And that is our repeat that takes us all the way to our marked stitch. We chain 3 and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 3 and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. So I'll see you when we're ready for the middle of row 20. So now we've worked all the way right up to that marked stitch. So what we do for row 20 is simply chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip that marked stitch and place marker. So this chain 3 right here in the center now is going to be our new marked stitch. So we skip over that stitch just as we were doing before, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and chain 3 again. So I will see you when we get to the end of row 20. So now I've made those chain 3 loops and single crochets all the way to the very last stitch of the row. So to finish off row 20, we simply work 2 single crochets in that very last stitch. Let's go ahead and move our stitch marker out of the way here. So there's 1 and 2. And with that, we have finished row 20 with a total of 84 single crochets. So when you're counting your stitches for this one, just count the single crochets. So now we're ready for row 21. We're going to start with a chain of 3 that will count as our first double crochet. So let me mark that stitch right there. And then we double crochet again in the first stitch. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we want to skip the next 3 single crochets and then single crochet in the next chain 3 space. So we need to read our work a little bit here. We've got 1, 2, 3 single crochets. So that means we're going to skip over that first chain 3 loop as well. So we single crochet in there. And after that, then we're ready to begin the repeat that starts with the asterisk. So if you're following along with the written pattern, the next thing it says is chain 3, skip the next single crochet and single crochet in the next chain 3 space. Then we chain 3 again, skip the next 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and single crochet in the chain 3 space after that. And that's our repeat that we're going to repeat across until we get to the marked chain space. So let's do one more of those together from the beginning. We chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip the next single crochet in the chain 3 loop after that, chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, skip the next 2 single crochets and single crochet in the loop after that. So repeat that all the way across until you get to that marked stitch in the middle. So as you work those repeats across, you will end your last repeat after skipping just 1 single crochet and single crocheting in the next chain 3 loop, because that has brought us to our marked chain space here. So from here, we go ahead and chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3. Then in that marked chain space right there, we are going to work a single crochet, chain 3, there's our chain 3, place our stitch marker right in that chain 3 space, It's our new center there. And then we can single crochet back in that same chain space. Oops, my hook got turned around. There we go. So that is our new center right there. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the very next chain 3 space. And then we can begin our second set of asterisks. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip the next single crochet in the next chain 3 space, 1, 2, 3, skip the next 2 single crochets, single crochet in the next chain 3 space. So continue that on across to the end, and I will see you at the end of row 21. Okay, so I've worked my last repeat here, which ends with a chain 3 and skip the next 2 single crochets. That leaves us with just these 2 single crochets right here at the end. So we'll skip the one right before the end here, and then in the very last stitch, we'll go ahead and put 2 double crochets. And with that, we're finished with row 21 with a total of 4 double crochets and 54 single crochets. So now we're ready for row 22. I've turned my work and I start with a chain of 3 again, which will represent another double crochet. Then we double crochet in the first stitch. There we go. And then we chain 2. 1, 2. Then we skip the next double crochet and work 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space. So that would be the one right here. So 1, 2, and 3. So there's our beginning. And after that, we begin again with our asterisk for row 22. Chain 2. Skip the next 2 single crochets, that would be this one here and the next one, and then work 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space. 1, 2, 3. So that is our repeat that will work all the way down to the marked chain 3 space in the center. So now we've worked that repeat all the way down to that marked chain 3 space in the center. So what we're going to do now is chain 1, here we go, skip the next single crochet, and then in that marked chain space, we're going to work a double crochet, chain 2, place the stitch marker around that chain 2, and then double crochet back in that same chain space. Chain 1 again, skip the next single crochet, and we're ready to begin that repeat again. 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space. 1, 2, 3. Then chain 2, skip 2 single crochets, and 3 double crochets in the next chain space. There we go. So continue that on across until you get to the end of row 22, and I'll rejoin you there. Okay, so now we've worked that repeat all the way across until there's just those 2 last double crochets remaining from the previous row. So what we want to do is chain 2, 1, 2, skip the first one, and in that final double crochet, we'll work 2 double crochets. Let's see here. There we are. I didn't quite put my stitch marker in that one all the way, so I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way here. And then we can make those final 2 double crochets here for row 22. And at the end of this row, you should have a grand total of 90 double crochets. There we are. And that is the end of row 22. And now we're ready for row 23, which is the last row of section 2. We're going to start with a chain of 4, which means that will count as a double crochet, and chain 1. So we'll secure the top of that chain 3 a little bit better this time. There we go. And then we're going to double crochet in that first stitch. There we are. And then skip the next stitch. So that would be that second double crochet right there. And work a double crochet, chain 3, double crochet in the next chain 2 space. So that's that first chain 2 space here. We double crochet, chain 3, and double crochet again, back in that chain space right there. There we are. Then we skip the next 3 stitches and do it again. We'll do that a total of 14 times. So we double crochet, chain 3, double crochet in that chain 2 space, right there in between our groups of 3. There we have it. And then, of course, skip those next 3 double crochets. So keep doing that across, and I will meet you when we get down to the marked chain space. So finally we come to this chain 1 space before our marked space. So we want to make sure that we come in here with another one of those wide V stitches, double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, and then finally we are at our marked stitch where again we are going to work a double crochet, chain 3, place marker, and double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and put that second one in here before I move up my stitch marker. There we go. So now I'll just go ahead and move that up to our new center chain 3 space. Then I want to make sure that I put another one of those here in that next chain 1 space. Double crochet, chain 3, double crochet. And then we can go back to our repeat, skip the next 3 stitches, and do another wide V in the next chain 2 space. So I'll see you as we approach the end of row 23. So now we've come to where there are just 2 stitches left for row 23. We're going to skip the second to the last stitch and work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the very last stitch. I'm going to go ahead and take my stitch marker out of the way here. And I want to make sure that I work into the top of that 3rd chain. There we go. I like to use my hook sometimes to separate those strands. All right, so we've got a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in our very last stitch. And that will be our last stitch for section 2. This is where we can break our yarn and switch to our next color. Remember, as we move to section 3, we do not turn. We go back to the first stitch that we made in row 23. But at the end of row 23, you should have a total of 66 double crochets. And that's how to crochet that section of the Blue Moon Shawl. Stay tuned for the rest of the videos and the rest of this beautiful shawl pattern featuring Caron Big Donut Ogo. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.